Hey guys! So today's video is going to be on the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe collaboration. I only got two of the palettes. I got Dark Magic and Bling Boss. So it's the more purple one and the more kind of dark green palette. I'm going to try and use as many shades as I can. I don't know if I'm going to stick with one palette or not. They're super beautiful. The boxes they came in look like this, and they did all have bubble wrap inside, so that's really good. And I got it at Ulta. They were sold out of the one that was like fall colors with that mustard yellow that everyone's super excited about. I wasn't planning on buying that one anyway, so it worked out for me. So I'm just going to put a little concealer on my lids. I want to give this a fair shot. I'm going to try it without primer first, just so the colors have full payoff, but if that seems to not be working out, then I will like set it first beforehand. But I haven't come across any eyeshadows that don't perform well on top of a wet base, so I'm not expecting that to be. Actually, I'm going to go in with Dark Magic. This is the one I really wanted. So I'm going to go in with the shade Busted first. And I'm just going to push this into the crease. Switching up my brush, something denser. Okay, so far I haven't gotten any fallout, which is good. I shouldn't because I'm applying to a wet base. Now I'm going to go in with that Potion shade to blend out that edge. And I'm using a fluffier brush. So far so good. I was expecting this shade to turn very muddy because it isn't as saturated, but it still kept its color even when it's super blended out. Now I'm going in with the shade Inside Job, and I'm packing that on the outer corner. So that shade is really beautiful, super pigmented. Didn't have any trouble at all with that one. I am interested to see how it would be applied, like blended out, because I know in the Subculture palette, colors similar to this are, which is why I got this palette, because I was like, this has the colors Subculture has, and that's what I really wanted in it. So now I'm going in with Temptress, which is that black shade, and packing it further on my outer corner. It has a slight bit of shimmer, but it doesn't show up. I believe she said she put the shimmer in so that it would be like a more buttery black. I don't know. I don't remember. That's a really nice black. I'm impressed. Okay, I'm going to try and zoom in a bit. So far, so good. I am getting a slight bit of like movement here, so let's see if we can fix that. That happens sometimes. I have slightly hooded lids, so that's not an eyeshadow problem. It's not a formula problem anyway. Okay, now I gotta figure out what I want to do with the front part. As much as I want to use shimmers from here, I think I'm going to use a shimmer from the Bling Boss palette because I'm going to use this on the bottom, I think. So first I'm going to take a flat brush and do a cut crease. I don't think it's necessary for shimmer to have a wet base because they're usually quite pigmented no matter really what the formula is, but I want like a sharp kind of front. And if you ever have trouble with a cut crease, put like the concealer close to your lash line and then look like normally or up a bit. That's where you know it would transfer if you didn't go up high enough, so that's where you want to start the crease. For the most part, it's like in your socket. Okay, and the shade I'm going to use is called Bling Bling. It's like a slightly pink shimmer. And I'm just going to pack it on with a flat brush, see how that works. Doesn't really seem to be picking up on the brush. Yeah, so I'm just going to use my finger. So that shade is actually pretty lackluster, in my opinion. I thought it would be more blingy. It's not ugly or anything, and it's also far more cool tone than I thought it'd be, which I'm not mad at. And I know it is also more cool tone because underneath it's not completely white. Alright, so now I'm going to move on to the lower lash line. And I'm going to go in with the shade Rockstar on a slightly dense brush. It's like a pencil brush, but it's a little fluffier. So I know it's kind of hard to tell because there's not a ton of space on the lower lash line, but I do want to mention I have a lot of purple shadows from different brands, Urban Decay, Smashbox, Anastasia, and it is typical to have more trouble getting any payoff from those colors, but I really didn't have to work at all for this shade. For this dark purple, Mystic, my sister bought this palette too. She had trouble with the shade packing it on. Like you really needed to use a lot. So I will do another look trying to do like a smoky eye with that shade, I think. But yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. This is one of the better purples that I've tried from a brand. I'm going to go in with the shade Hush Hush now, just to blend out that bottom. Okay, and I just swatched some of the shades in this. I'm going to go in with the shade Ballsy and try and make the top shimmer do something. I like that better. Okay, so now I'm going to put mascara on and lashes, and I'll be right back. Okay, so that's it for the look. Now I'm going to do some swatches and kind of talk about my first impressions of the palettes. So let's start with the Dark Arts palette. I wish the name was on the actual, oh it is, the Dark Magic palette. I do like the packaging, it's lightweight. I'm not a big packaging person, as long as it's not like clunky, like a lot of Urban Decay stuff, can't stand. It's just so clunky. But this is nice, it's slim. There's a mirror, which is pretty decent quality. Okay, so let's talk about the colors. So I feel like we could have gone without this shade. I did use it in my look, but as I was putting it on, I found that it is the exact color these two mixed together makes. So could have done with something different, maybe a lighter color to kind of not necessarily brighten up this palette, but have more transition shades, maybe another shimmer in more of a blue. That would be nice. So I used Potion, Busted, Inside Job, and Temptress. So I used matte shades in this palette, so my opinion on this palette is mainly based on them. I didn't have any problem with color payoff at all. I did apply them on a wet base, but that is how I apply my eyeshadow now. So there's really no point in me trying it on a set base because that's just not how I work anymore, so it wouldn't be beneficial to me. If you use a set base, it's likely you're not going to have as much payoff and you have to pack on the color more. That's how it is with every eyeshadow, not just these. I do like the shimmer shades in this palette, Power Cut, Trickery, and Diversion. I didn't use them today, but I did swatch them to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. The only thing I would have to say about the shimmers that I've noticed in this palette and the Bling Boss palette, they do develop a hard pan, which means basically like the oils or whatever from your fingers or brush, what have you, will dry on top of the shadow, and you'll have to kind of rub that off or kind of aggressively rub into the palette to really get the color on. So I would say this shade, Trickery, it's very pretty. It's like blue-brown pigment. Every brand has this color, but it's not as sparkly as I thought it would be. Still a beautiful shade. It is a little drier than the other two though. This one is the shade Diversion. Again, a beautiful shade. I think this would be really pretty with a glitter on top of it to make it pop a little bit more. I didn't have any trouble like getting it on my finger or anything. It felt very buttery. And then this shade is Power Cut. This is interesting because in the pan it looks like it would be a deeper grayish color. And it is kind of like a taupe, but it's a lot lighter than I thought it would be, and it's a beautiful shade. I want to do a look with this as like the focus because I think it's so beautiful. Since we're on the top row, I'm just going to swatch the other two. We have Poof. So here we have Poof. As you can see, it's a little bit darker than my skin tone. It's a matte, super buttery, no problem with that one. And then this is Shh. I really like this shade. It has a little bit of warmth to it, but it's still a pretty neutral brown. So I think it works really well with this palette and would pair well with a lot of different shadows. I have no primer on my hands, by the way, or anything. Okay, so moving on to the bottom row, my favorite row. I'm going to go in with Potion, Busted, Inside Job. Very pigmented, not as buttery as the shimmer shades, but that's to be expected. They definitely don't show up as pigmented in a swatch as they do on my eyes, which I don't mind. Swatches don't really tell that much of a story. I'm sure you've seen her videos where she swatches them I believe she's swatching pretty aggressively, which is fine, whatever. It doesn't really matter because it's not how they apply in the eyes anyway. But they are a little more sheer, so I'll show you how they build up. So there they built up a little bit more. Okay, now this deep brown Mojo and Temptress, the black with a little bit of shimmer. So there's Mojo, and there's the black. I do think the black is wonderful. The shimmer I don't really see, especially on my eyes right now. I can see it a little bit in this swatch, but it truly doesn't matter that much to me, as I would not really go for a shimmery black anyway. But these are the bottom row. I'm pretty impressed with this palette. Price especially, it's only $15. I think it's beautiful. I would say this one is definitely worth the money. I did use more shades in this palette than the other one, so I feel like I have a better understanding of how it will work on my eyes. The shades I was most concerned about performance-wise are the ones that I used, and they performed way better than I expected. Like I said, I expected this kind of army green shade to turn quite gray and muddy, because that's a pretty common thing to do with shades like that, and it didn't at all. It stayed very true to what I want it to be. So I'm impressed. I will of course do more videos with different looks with these palettes, just so I can kind of get a better, more well-rounded opinion on it, but that's how I'm feeling right now. So moving on to the Bling Boss palette. This is the more purple toned one. So I used Rockstar, Hush Hush, Bling Bling, and Ballsy. Very impressed with this purple shade. Purples are very common to be patchy and have to be built up quite a bit. This one I didn't have to build up at all. It deposited all of the color I needed right away. I didn't have to go back and forth. So I'm happy with that. The Ballsy shade is a really beautiful, it's what I put on top. I did first put down the Bling Bling shade, but it just wasn't doing it for me. It is beautiful, but I wanted something with a little more kind of impact, I guess. So now I'm going to swatch them all, just so we can see how they perform that way. I do know my sister tried this palette. She used the shade Mystic. You really have to pack it on. It's not the most pigmented shade in the world. I was expecting that, but just something to keep in mind. So let's start with the top row. We have Bling Bling, which hopefully you can see it already has a hard pan on it, which makes it a little difficult to pick up product. We have Hush Hush, and then a slight sheen in the shade Gem. Oh my god, Gem is beautiful. I was not expecting to like that shade, just because I'm not really a big fan of bright purples like that. So Bling Bling. Like I said, it's a beautiful shade. It just didn't have the payoff that I wanted for like the look I kind of envisioned as I was going about it. What is this? Hush, Hush, Hush. Very pretty. I love this shade. It's like that perfect kind of taupey but slightly mauve-y transition color that I have been looking for. And then the shade Gem. This shade performs like, man, Buxom used to have eyeshadows. I don't know if they still have them anymore, but they don't sell them in store, at least at my location. And they're really, really nice. They have primer built into them, so this feels like one of those, like I feel like I can just paint my whole arm with this color because it's so buttery. So very pleased. Then we have the shade Pizzazz, which is a shimmer, and the shade Mystic, which is that deep shade that my sister had trouble with. So here is Pizzazz. Beautiful shade. I know these shades are very popular, these kind of like almost brick colors. It's a little more pink. I'm not a fan of them anymore. They just, I don't know, I'm over it. So Mystic is swatching pretty well. But again, swatches don't really tell the whole story. Very much like this so far. This isn't the palette that I wanted from the collection. I wanted the Dark Magic one, so I got it. But of all the other ones, this is was the second that I would have gotten if Dark Magic was out of stock. I'm very much over all of the warm tones, like the oranges and stuff like that. I just feel like they've been overdone and they're all the same and I don't need more. Like, I have enough. So that's why I got this one. I still think this would be really wonderful for fall. Actually, both of them. They're good year-round, but I feel like these are very fall colors because you've got the burgundies, and I'm excited to try a lot of looks with this since I didn't play with it as much as the other. So now we have Sparks, which is a reddish shade, Glitz and Glam, which is a shimmer, and then Rockstar. So we have Sparks, which actually swatches pretty well. Glitz and Glam, really pretty, and Rockstar, which doesn't swatch that great, performed amazing on my eyes. And then we have Ballsy, which is the shimmer I put on top of my lids, and Berry Treasure, which is actually a really beautiful shade. It's like a duochrome, and I didn't really notice that until right this moment. Now I really want to do a look with it. So we have Ballsy, very pigmented, very beautiful. Similar to, I would say her shimmers, actually pretty similar to the Makeup Geek foiled shadows if you've ever tried those. And then the shade Berry Treasure. Oh, this is beautiful. So, like I said, I didn't use this palette as much as the other one. I'm not totally sure how I feel about it yet. I love the color story. It's so beautiful to me. I like that they are a little bit on the cooler side or more neutral side and not like the super warm colors. I am a little iffy about some of them because they don't perform kind of the way I was expecting, like the Mystic shade, and like the hard pan thing is kind of weird to me, but it's something that happens with some shadows. So my final thoughts are, I'm pretty impressed. I have tried Morphe shadows in the past, not a palette that they have pre-built. I made my own. They were okay. They were very dry though and very hard pressed. These are very different from the Morphe shadows in my opinion. I haven't tried any of like the 35O or any of those, so I don't know what they feel like really. I've played with them at Ulta and they feel kind of dry compared to these. So if you don't like how hard pressed the other Morphe shadows are, I would at least go into your Ulta just to feel these because they are very different compared to the other Morphe products. I'm really impressed. I love the way it performed on my eyes. I'm going to be doing a ton of looks with these. So hopefully I don't bore you guys because I have a lot of looks in mind that will be coming up and I'm probably not going to use anything else for a while. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. Let me know if you've tried them, if you love them, if you hate them, what your experience was. Also, if you have like a certain color in the palette that you really want to look based around, let me know.